I got an email from the client and they told me I was fired. And not only was I fired, but they were happy to give up the £3,000 that they'd already paid me as a deposit in order to no longer work with me. So this might be the lowest point in my graphic design career, but weirdly ended up being the most defining. So a few years back, I landed this logo design client at a fucking scary time in my life where I just decided to let go of a couple of regular clients that were paying me regular monthly income for things like flyers and digital banners. And I did that so that I could focus only on my logo design work. I had decent logos in my portfolio, which helped me charge around $6,000 for this project, which was friggin' amazing. So I was sort of riding high when I collected their deposit and started work on 3 options for the client to choose from. I can't go into the specifics of the project, but the client had the word electric in their name, and they gave me what I thought was a pretty great brief with loads of creative freedom. And one of the options I presented to the client was this electric E that had this lightning bolt in the negative space between 2 extruded E shapes. And I thought I'd nailed it with this one. But eventually the client came back and they said that they liked the style of the logos, but they weren't really representative of the company's values. Now, this was the first red flag. That's pretty unusual for a client to not like any of the concepts at all. But I went back to the drawing board and ended up presenting 2 more options. So that's 5 in total now, all mocked up in a beautiful presentation, weeks of work, and the client hated them. By this point, I was thinking in my head, I'll be the designer's sock puppet. Yeah, you can put your hand up my ass and I'll just do what you tell me to do. But before I could even start the conversation about the 6th version, I got an email from the client and they told me I was fired. And not only was I fired, but they were happy to give up the £3,000 that they'd already paid me as a deposit in order to no longer work with me. I was fucking mortified. Bear in mind that I've just thrown $4,000 a month down the pisser, and now I've got a client so disappointed in my work that they would rather forego $3,000 than work with me anymore. So yeah, my confidence was in complete tatters. It honestly took me weeks to recover, second guessing everything I was doing and just having no confidence at all in my designs. Now, there's a line in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it goes something like, when successful people fail, they rebound really quickly. Now that's taken a little bit out of context, but ultimately I had to take responsibility for that massive failure and move on from it quick. I hadn't asked the right questions and I didn't do my job. I didn't get what I needed from the client in order to make a logo that they would be proud of. Here's the silver lining though, and there's a few. A couple of months later, I submitted that Electric E logo into a book called The Logo Lounge, which is like this prestigious showcase of the year's best logos. And not only did it get accepted out of 30,000 entries, but they also used it on their outside bloody cover. So then I made a TikTok video bragging about getting into this book, and then that went viral, and my logo design business just exploded overnight, which then started a bidding war on that Electric E logo, which then led to me asking submissions from companies that might want to use it, which ended with me giving the logo away to an electrician called Chloe, and she's all about championing women in trade and giving victims of domestic violence the skills to gain their independence. Basically, the perfect place for this logo to end up. So that logo that got rejected turned out to be award-winning. It just wasn't right for that particular client, you know? One person's trash is another person's treasure, right? So basically, my advice from this is if your confidence has taken a bit of a knock lately, just learn from it and attack the problem. Like, I ended up rewriting my entire briefing process from scratch after that client, which has absolutely nailed my process now. And I often get the holy grail of design feedback signed off, no amends. Something like 2 out of every 5 designers quits graphic design in the first 2 years, which is a fucking horrendous statistic. And it just does not need to be that way. I was 10 years into my career when all that shit happened, and I'm only out the other side because I attacked the problem. And yeah, that's why I have this logo in neon behind me as a constant reminder.